Monday, September 11th. Later. At 4 o'clock, Grandmom and Grandpa called from Ohio to tell us we were on the national news on CNN, so Mom turned it on. They already had live footage shot by a news helicopter. It showed the whole campus, then it zeroed in on the field of portables and the focal point of the sinkhole. I was surprised and even a little disappointed at how small the crater was, only about 50 yards across. I was also surprised to hear that only a dozen kids were treated at the Tangerine County Medical Center, and all for minor injuries. Nobody was dead. Nobody was even kept overnight for observation. The local news at 6 o'clock opened with the same helicopter shot, but they also had interviews with Mrs. Gates, Mr. Ward, the sheriff, and a group of eighth graders who had been in the Portable 19 Rescue Brigade. They were followed by a geologist from the University of Florida, Dr. Judith something. She explained that the above normal amounts of storm runoff rain had caused an underground cavern to form and then collapse. When it collapsed, everything on the surface above it collapsed too. In this case, the area of the field that contained portables 16 through 21. The reason the sinkhole had done such massive damage to the school was that all the portables were connected by wooden walkways. Yeah, tell me about it. All that cracking and splintering, none of the news coverage could recapture that. Dad came home angry and agitated. Reporters had been calling Dad's office, the Department of Civil Engineering, asking how a school could be built over a huge sinkhole. Old Charlie Burns was out of the office at a stock car race, so Dad had to take the heat. Dad tried to find the geological surveys for the Lake Windsor campus, but he couldn't. He had to tell the reporters that he didn't know where they were. One reporter had the nerve to ask him, "How can you not know what's going on in your own office?" He was especially angry about that. The 11 o'clock news featured the same exact reports. That's when I got a call from Joey. He said, "I heard that a whole home ec class got buried alive in Portal 18. They're just not telling us. No way. Who told you that?" Kara, she's hysterical. Yeah, you're right. She is. I gotta go. And he hung up. I gotta go too. I'm wiped out, but I feel good about today. I faced down danger today, maybe even death. When disaster struck, we all had to do something. In a way, we all had to become someone. I'm not saying I was a hero. All I did was slide around in the mud and try to pull people up, but I didn't panic and run either. I'm still afraid of Eric. I'm afraid of Arthur now, too. But today I wasn't a coward, and that counts for something. Tuesday, September 12th. The Tangerine Times printed a special pull-out section on the Lake Windsor Middle School sinkhole. The photos were spectacular. They had one huge shot of the splintered walkway sticking up in all directions, like Godzilla had just trampled through there. The newspaper ran a letter from Mrs. Gates to the parents of all 7th and 8th graders. We're all supposed to attend a special disaster meeting on Friday night at 7:30 in the high school gymnasium. The letter said that state and county officials are planning to attend and that they are currently working on an emergency relocation plan that will be presented at this meeting. I bet they are. Think about it. There are 25 portables that are completely trashed, completely out of commission. Let's say there are 25 kids assigned to each of those portables, and each kid has 7 class periods a day. That's 625 kids and 175 class periods to relocate. Awesome. I was shocked to read that the 6th graders are supposed to return to school on Thursday. Thursday! The main building of the middle school and all the buildings of the high school have been certified as structurally safe by a team of engineers hastily assembled by old Charlie Burns. It turns out that old Charlie was in Daytona, but now he's back and he is taking personal charge of the case. I'm sure that's fine with Dad, who wants nothing to do with the case or with old Charlie. The field of portables, of course, has been certified as a disaster area. The engineers condemned everything within a 100-yard radius of the focal point of the sinkhole, which was right under portable 19. The condemned area includes all of the portables, of course, but to the south it also includes a corner of the soccer field and all of the baseball diamond. To the north it includes nearly all of the high school football bleachers that back up into the middle school. There's extra land to the south so the soccer field can be moved. But what about those steel framed 30-row high, 100-yard long high school bleachers? They're not moving anywhere. They're condemned, period. The football stadium has just lost half of its seating capacity, and Eric Fisher, the soon to be famous place kicker, has just lost half of his audience. Thursday, September 14th. Dad is the new director of civil engineering for Tangerine County. It happened quickly. Channel 2 ran an eyewitness news special report about old Charlie Burns last night at 6 p.m. Dad had old Charlie's job now by noon today. The eyewitness news team really kicked butt. It turned out that in the 10-year multi-million-dollar building boom on the west side of Tangerine County, old Charlie's department never denied one request for a permit. They never sent out one inspector either. They let the developers hire their own inspectors and even fill out their own inspection reports. They let the developers conduct their own geological surveys too, including the missing one for the Lake Windsor campus. And they maintained the most relaxed building code in all of Florida for construction methods and materials. So, what has old Charlie been doing instead of inspecting new development plans? According to the Eyewitness News team, he has been living the high life either at a Florida Gators game or at a stock car race. The University of Florida Alumni Association lists old Charlie as a Bull Gator contributor. He even has his own skybox. He has a skybox at Daytona too, and he is an honored guest at Talladega, at the Charlotte Motor Speedway, and at various other race sites around the southeast. According to the eyewitness team narrator, Charlie Burns lived the high life, yet his salary remained that of a civil servant. So where did it all come from? The skyboxes, the expensive trips, the big contributions? It came from the developers. On the side, off the books, under the table. They wanted Charlie Burns out of the way, so they sent him to Charlotte, or to Darlington, or to Talladega. While he was gone, the estates at East Hampton and the villas at Versailles and Lake Windsor Downs and the middle school, high school complex all went up, unsurveyed, unsupervised, and unsafe. By the time the report was finished, old Charlie was roadkill. There wasn't enough left of old Charlie to hose off the driveway. At first, Dad said he was worried that he'd be tarred with the same brush, but a county commissioner called him right after the broadcast and talked to him for over an hour. Then, like I said, he got the job today. I heard Dad promise the commissioner that every new construction site will be thoroughly inspected and regulated from now on. So I guess it's the end of the multi-million-dollar building boom west of Tangerine, the end of the era, the old Charlie Burns era. Dad never mentioned old Charlie in his conversation with the commissioner. He never mentioned him when he told Mom, Eric, and me about the job offer either. It's the end of an era, all right, and it's like old Charlie Burns, the former director, the racing fan, the real character, no longer exists. But that's Dad. You're either at the center of his world or you're nowhere. There is no in between. It's the Dad era now. Friday, September 15th. Mom and Dad and I drove up to the high school tonight to hear about the emergency relocation plan. I expected to hear that we were going to be out of school for a month or two, or maybe even 6. I guess we all thought that because Mom had been calling every private school within driving distance. She was trying to sell me on a local Catholic school called St. Anthony's. The boys there have to wear blue pants, white shirts, and blue ties. Mom was selling, but I wasn't buying. Mom, we're not Catholic, I pointed out. That doesn't matter. I talked to the principal, Sister Mary Margaret. You don't have to be Catholic to go there. It just happens to be a Catholic school. What are you saying? It's just coincidence that only Catholics go there? Maybe you don't know everything about it, Paul. Would you please listen? 10% of their students are not Catholic, and the sister told me that she's been flooded by calls from Lake Windsor Middle, so you'd be with kids you know. There are about 3 kids that I can stand at Lake Windsor Middle. Well, I'll bet you Joey Costello's parents have called there. Sure, I'll bet Joey Costello's parents know what a rosary is, too. Dad snapped at both of us. I think this discussion is a bit premature, don't you? The school officials say they have a plan worked out, so let's all hear what it is. Until then, let's have some peace and quiet. Dad is stressed to the max about this sinkhole business. His department is getting dozens of phone calls from magazines and wire services and TV producers. He's talked to people from as far away as Australia and Japan. In so many words, he gives them all the same message. Old Charlie Burns did it. Now old Charlie's gone. That's why the county commissioners went want Dad on stage with them at the meeting tonight. They want everybody watching to get the message. Old Charlie Burns did it. Now old Charlie's gone. When we got to the high school, there were about 1,000 parents and kids entering the gymnasium. We saw the Costellos get out of their Jeep. While our parents talked, Joey muttered to me, "Check it out. Some of these geeks still have mud on them." I said, "Did you see the news?" "Yeah, can you believe it? If we hadn't gone home on that bus, we'd have been on TV with Mr. Ward and the rest of the rescue brigade, right? They'd be making a movie about us." "Yeah, right. We'd have been heroes." Joey looked away. He clenched his jaw and added, "Mike would have been proud of what we did, I'll tell you that." "Yeah, I'm sure he would have." "Okay, here we go. I'll catch you tomorrow." "Okay." We split off from the Costellos and moved into the gymnasium. There were no seats at all. The pull-out bleachers had not been pulled out, so everybody had to stand. We worked our way as far as we could, stopping about 20 yards from a small stage. Dad spotted the county commissioner, who backed him for Charlie Burns' job. The commissioner was a big guy with a big gut and a big bald head. Dad waved to him and then pushed his way steadily forward up onto the stage until he was standing next to him. Mom and I stayed down on the floor. After a few minutes, Mrs. Gates walked to the microphone and tapped it. "I want to begin by apologizing for the standing room only conditions, but it was the only way to get all of us in here tonight. I want to thank Mr. Bridges, the principal of Lake Windsor High School, and all of his staff. They, along with our own remarkable middle school staff, have been working nearly round the clock since Tuesday morning." People in the crowd applauded in appreciation. "I don't need to tell anyone what happened here on Monday, but I do want to assure you that none of our students were seriously injured. And that's because every student behaved in a very mature way. The fact is, many students showed a great deal of courage out there. They helped to keep a natural disaster from becoming a human disaster, and they too deserve our applause." There were louder applause this time. I strained to see Joey, but I couldn't. "I want to introduce the people up here on the stage." Mrs. Gates then went on to introduce about 20 people. The commissioner of this, the coordinator of that, the superintendent of something. When he got to the director of civil engineering and read out Dad's name, the crowd buzzed ominously. Finally, he got to the part that everyone had come to hear. All these people, in conjunction with the State Department of Education in Tallahassee, have helped to devise an emergency relocation plan. Mrs. Gates stopped and held up some papers. She looked over the crowd. "I cannot stress too strongly that this is all temporary. This is a plan to hold us over until we've fixed our problem. Fixed it quickly, fixed it completely. The Department of Civil Engineering." She stopped and looked down at her notes. "Under the new direction of Mr. Fisher, has a small army of contractors at work out there. They will make sure that the sinkhole is completely stabilized and that there is zero chance of this ever happening again." Mrs. Gates paused, but no one applauded. "Now, the estimated timetable for repairs to our school, and that means restoring everything to just the way it was, is 3 months. Our target date for returning to normal life at Windsor Middle School is January 8th, the start of the new term. For the remainder of this term, we will all go by this emergency relocation plan, which goes into effect on Monday." Wait a minute. Whoa. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Monday? I'd figured on a month's downtime at the very least. Now, basically, we had the weekend off and then we were due back to school. Mrs. Gates turned to page 2 of the plan and began to read the details. They added up to this: all the 8th graders would have to squeeze into the high school. All the 7th graders would have to squeeze into the middle school. Parents around me whispered to each other and acted like they understood. Mrs. Gates should have quit while she was ahead, but she continued. "Unfortunately, this means that the middle school will have to run on a split shift for the rest of this term, with class periods reducing to 40 minutes. 6th graders will begin at 7:30 a.m. and end at 1 p.m. 7th graders will begin at 1:30 p.m. and end at 7 p.m. And then friendly sounding rumble began in the crowd. Mrs. Gates spoke again quickly. We understand that a strain this will put on everyone, but I ask you to remember that this is only until the end of the term. We also understand that this plan simply would not work for some families. That is why seventh grade parents will have another option. Mrs. Gates turned and pointed to a black woman in a blue suit. Dr. Grace Johnson, the principal of Tangerine Middle School, has agreed to take on any of our seventh graders for the remainder of this term. Lake Windsor students who choose to go there will be absorbed into the existing class schedule at Tangerine Middle School, which is the same as our normal class schedule. Those of you who choose this option, however, will have to provide your own transportation. The crowd noise started to increase. Mrs. Gates said, Seventh graders, please do not leave without a split shift schedule. She then closed the meeting by saying, That's all for now. Remember, we're all in this together and we'll come out of this an even stronger Lake Windsor Middle School family. Good night. As the people around me started toward the exits, I stood rock still, looking up like I was looking toward the heavens. It was a miracle. I could not believe what had just happened. Dad found us in the crowd and said, Come on, we can talk about all this in the car. No, no, I shouted about the noise. We have to talk about it here. The miracle happened here. Mom looked at me curiously, but she sided with Dad. Come on, Paul. The car is quieter and we need quiet. This is a big decision to make. I was elated, and I wasn't budging. What's to decide? I faced down Mom and Dad in the middle of that gymnasium. Mom, you ruined my life at Lake Windsor Middle when you turned in that IEP. This is your chance to unruin it. Dad, I don't mind if you never pay any attention to me for the rest of my life. Just give me this chance. I won't complain about Eric ever. Just give me this chance, both of you. I want to go to Tangerine Middle School, and I want to go with no IEP. I looked at Mom, and I knew I had her. She couldn't resist me not after what had happened with Coach Walski. I looked at Dad, and he seemed puzzled. Not angry, just puzzled. He said, What's this about me never paying attention to you? Maybe during football season I'm more wrapped up with what Eric's doing. That's true, but the rest of the time I pay equal attention to you boys. Football season and soccer season happen at the same time, Dad. It's okay with me if you don't pay attention to both. Just let me go to Tangerine Middle. Do you understand? I wouldn't be the water boy there. I'd be the goalie. Dad started nodding, slowly at first, but then he picked up speed. Mom looked at me with her nervous smile, but she nodded right along with him. The heavens had opened up for me.